Johns was hit with a bottle of alcohol in Santa Monica, California, while performing Israel's Son, and the injury required half a dozen stitches near his left eyebrow. Israel's Son was released as the third single off of Frog Stomp and was also included on the band's first compilation album, The Best Of, Volume 1.
It must have really pissed him off to be hit with a bottle of something he wasn't even old enough to drink. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's Johnny's name's Andy. Half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it just to reach you. More on that another time. But first, we have a song to listen to from Andy. Andy, what have you got for us today?
I am going to be bringing a band to the channel called Silverchair. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard at least of them, but what's the extent of your knowledge with Silverchair?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Not
wow.
ringing any strong bells. I mean, Silverfish. Oh, Jesus. They were a band. I saw them live, actually, at Rock City. Fucking hell. Yeah, not the most fun of experiences. But anyway, I won't get into that. I've got some of their vinyl, actually. I won't inflict it on you.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, that
But no, I don't think Silverchair. No, I had visions of Narnia. I don't know why. But
Yeah, well, I think I know why. But that's really interesting to me, and I guess it just sheds some light on it's all about perspective, right? Like, these guys aren't American, they aren't English, but they were huge here, which made me assume that they got to some extent big or at least some press and popularity over there. And maybe that is the case, and they just weren't on your radar or whatever. But it's just, I guess, at first glance, that's just interesting to hear. But nonetheless, I'd like you to check out this track off of it. The track is off of their first album, but this is a live version that they did several years later in 2007, and it's the track "Israel Son" from the Across the Great Divide tour. So I'd like you to see this live performance and give this song a listen and come back and let me know what you think of Israel's Son by Silverchair.
Thank you, Melvin.
oh, Melvin. Sorry, this isn't intended, but that bass line, it sounds like something. I can't think which one it is. It sounds like a Spinal Tap one that Dex Walls plays at the start. It's just me. Looks like big arena, loads of people there. I'm all very clearly happy to be there. The sort of strobe lighting and the sirens to start with, so it's very atmospheric. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, you can clap your hands.
Militaristic.
Hey, this is what I feel for you. When I want you to know that I want you dead. You're late for the execution. If you're not here soon, I'll be a friend instead.
Hey, excuse me. So this is sounding very mid-90s American popularization of grunge, going towards that sort of metal sound. Um, yeah. So you've got the two guitar sounds. The one he's playing there is sort of higher pitched, and there's some interesting expression notes, and we bend a couple as well. Sounded good. And then the other guitar, which we don't really, I haven't noticed, is that sort of more sludgy, sort of almost monosyllabic. It's just making noises that it's not really a melody. Dun, 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 which would then morph into that sort of horrible skater, punky metal shite where it's just awful. It all sounds condensed and really distorted. Yeah. So it sounds like that, which again was prevalent then as they sort of try to shoehorn the grunge feel into them charts and earn lots of money from it. And this sounds akin to that. His voice sounds akin as well to other exponents of that time. And that sort of habit of extending notes during phrasing to show you've got a decent voice, I guess, but it doesn't make it easy to understand. He says something about you're late for execution, but again, it kind of sounds like other people. It sounds really American. I got the impression that they were in Melbourne. Perhaps they're an American band in Melbourne or an Australian band, but his delivery sounds really. I've listened to those bands, and it does sound quite American. And you have that kind of militaristic feel as well, with the setting of the chicka 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 and the drum, which again, that sort of fine military thing is leaning towards that sort of American metal-y sound as well. Let's see how it goes.
All the pain I feel couldn't start to heal. Although I can tell. I hate you. I know what happened there. You can leave, I don't want you here. I'm playing this ransom man, but I don't see you showing any signs of fear. All the pain I feel couldn't start to heal. Although I would like it to. This time I'm for real. My pain cannot heal. You will be dead without the It's what I feel for you. I don't want you to know that I want you dead. You're all the execution. If you're not here soon, I'll kill your friend and him, baby. All the pain I feel couldn't start to heal. Although I would like it.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say about that. So clearly, then from all the shots, there's a three-piece, so there isn't a second guitar. This must be the bass filling in the sludgy bits. Really interesting stuff when he was doing his knob twiddling and that. Some really, really interesting sounds. I don't know how they fit into this song, but I liked them. There's a weird sort of bitty bit to this. But then this performance is a bit like that. So then they slow down and pretty much they stop. But clearly the audience are in on this, so this must be one of the more popular songs, and they're loving it. Which you can imagine you're there, and it's quite spectacle. Um, he's not above doing a bit of crowd work and getting them going, and it's that which has great effect. Um, but yeah, then they go back into it, and again, the only line I caught was the one from before about "you're late for your execution." So about if you're not here, I'm going to kill, and then it's launched. So I didn't really catch the rest of it. But yeah.
Last time I'm for real, my pain cannot heal. You will be dead when I'm
Shit, that's pretty good. Yeah, interesting. You gotta love that sort of double tap when they came back in. It always works in loads of songs, and it gets the crowd going. And then they went to double, put your hands in the air, and then they went to double time, sort of rocking it out, and you had this sort of twisted metal sound at the end. Yeah, interesting. Um, it's not really my cup of tea. And I think I've made it clear many, 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 many times that this sort of grungy metal stuff isn't appealing to me. But they did it very well. I'm sure that the people there had an absolute ball. Um, and it is very popular sort of stuff. So there are people who appreciate it a lot more than I do. But let's find out some more about this band. I'm intrigued to know who the hell they are. So let's get back and chop it up with Andy.
All right, so you're back from the Great Divide. What did you make of this performance and the track Israel Sun by Silverchair?
Okay, so it starts obviously mid-performance, as it were. It was part of the gig, with the strobe lighting and siren noises, and so you're deep in the atmosphere. Before he thanks Melbourne, unless that's the name of one of their roadies, I guess it's the location of this gig. And appreciative squeals from the crowd ensue. So then we start off with a bass line worthy, I did say, in the action of Derek Smalls. It just for some reason reminded me of Spinal Tap. I think it's Big Bottoms, Big Bottoms. Talk about mud flaps. My girl's got them. But it's that sort of slow. I mean, as I say, I think the bass line, it kind of waddles out, doesn't it? Fat and funky.
Yeah.
um, And the singer gives permission for the audience to clap, which is nice of them to wait for the say so from him. Very polite, these audiences down under. Um, and as we start warming up the song, we get these intermittent, almost like industrial, distorted squawks from the guitar, which are synchronized with beats from the drummer before we expand into full riffage.
Mhm.
Now, I think I made a mistake in the reaction at the start because it sounded to me like there was like two guitars, um, one sort of doing the higher register stuff, another one doing the sort of more sort of platformy distorted stuff, but I think that must have been the bass slipping into that area
Mhm.
actually, because I was waiting to see the second guitarist, and then we pull back. There's unless he's in a box somewhere and they really fell out, it's the three piece.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Silverchair, very
um,
famously a three-piece band. So yeah, you got it.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so it all has that sound and tone of, that we discussed many times, the popularized American grunge mid 90s, that period. And there's that mixture of that sort of flat chugging and then
Yeah,
the expressive notes over the top. See, man starts to sing, and his voice completely fits in with that era, and the sound is exactly. I catch something about late for the execution, but he has this habit, which a certain Mr. EV has as well, of extending certain notes within a phrase. Sometimes at the beginning, sometimes in the middle, sometimes at the end,
yeah.
um, and it displays his vocal dexterity and quality of his voice, but it doesn't particularly lend to a clarity of understanding of lyrics on first listen.
Yeah, it
So
sounds great, but at the expense of like
yeah,
enunciation. So the word
yeah,
hate becomes here
yeah,
is what I feel for
yeah.
you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, he sounds, and I wasn't, forget what you said. I was thinking Melbourne, and that's like, he sounds really American in his voice and his tone, and very much of that sort of mainstream alt rock. Um, I would question how grungy this is. This, I mean, more towards sort of light metal, but it's that grey area or Venn diagram between the
Yeah.
two. The drummer's really working his ass off here. Um, and he's punctuating many of the phrases and words and hitting certain words with cymbal hits at the same time, and then these mini fills as well. He's really doing a good job actually of adding this sort of light and shade to it. Because of that, we've spoken about this many, many times, but you have that so-called sort of grunge sound. It can be not monosyllabic, but it's a fairly flat area of the sound coming out, which would then evolve later in years to that horrible thing that you and I both hate, that sort of skater punk or whatever, condensed stuff that actually had no melody to it whatsoever. Yeah, so then your man does a little bit of crowd milking,
Yes.
which he does several times actually. He knows how to play and push their buttons, which is, makes for a good show, and they're all loving it. Otherwise, they'd be booing and hissing and throwing tomatoes. So he crouches down to manipulate the sound with a bit of knob twiddling and pedal pushing. Um, this is a really inventive part for me.
Yeah.
There's some really great shrieks and electronic belches and oscillations that I found really fascinating. Now,
Right.
I'm not 100% sold on how this bit fits into the rest of the song, but I really appreciate being there. And it's a nice little sort of, sort of interlude, as it were, of this fascinating stuff. Um, if they could have incorporated later in the song as well, but it's hard to do, I guess, because he's really doing all that. But
Mm.
imagine the effects came back in later on; it'd be amazing. But you're really impressed with what he was doing. I mean, technically, I have no knowledge at all, so I don't know how he does that. He could have put some guy at the back could be pressing a fucking button, and he's just doing all
As
this
he
for show down there.
pantomimes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it sounded great. So we come out of that and we drop down to just drum and bass, and it slows to a seeming end of the song. And just as they do that, the only line that I've been able to discern so far is repeated again. You're late for the execution. Um, Clearly, this must be one of the band's more popular songs because the crowd are all in on it and they're absolutely reveling and delighting in this break. Um, and then they, realize that, because they take a beat, and then he comes back in and he says, "If you're not here soon, I'll kill." and the rest has lost me as their enthusiastic return into the song. Um, we stomped through the same sort of section as before. It feels a bit more attack to it, but there's maybe again there's just like contrast between the quiet bit and then back again. Then we get another time change into this sort of semi-militaristic passage with double taps um, and more crowd work, raise your hands and stuff. And those double taps are really effective and all different sort of genres. But for some reason, just hitting the drum once doesn't really do anything. But if you go, and then someone can strum with it, we said this just recently that yeah, your man who was doing, Black Sabbath putting in a bit of Led Zeppelin. The two bands both do that really well.
Yeah.
Getting this done here, it's a classic, effective technique. Um, and then the accelerators press down, they go into double time, and it's a proper sort of metal marching finale. And it starts to become almost twisted metal. There's some really interesting notes that are floating around that they're like second cousins of what else was going on before. They've brought them in from a nearby airport. They're that distant in terms of the melody, but really nice. And then it just stops because obviously the video guys cut it. So yeah, I would say in general, I was really impressed with the performance. I think one thing I'd really like to see was the way they and the crowd engaged, that everyone was brought into it. And the bits where they lit up when it was going to raise your hands, you could see the rest of the arena, and there's a fuckload of people
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah. I didn't know from the title whether this is, I presumes, I didn't know at the start with this thing was, some sort of thematic show and they were one act within it, or if it's their own, but clearly when you saw that, it's their own gig. Clearly, yeah, and it's huge. I would say the tone of the song is not really my thing, but I definitely appreciated it and what they did.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm glad you were able to appreciate however much of it that you did. And again, I don't want to belabor this, but it's just interesting that this was your first time giving them a go, and I'll kind of explain why that is as we get into my notes here on the band. But yeah, really glad you enjoyed it. It's a hell of a live performance. Really love the guitar chicanery going on there with his pedal board, and I thought you might like it as well. And the fun with the switching up of the breakdowns and the time signature stuff and all that, the tempo and all that is great. Go ahead.
It made me think when he was doing all that. I know we had an episode where the Shins, was it a version of the Shins or an offshoot where she was doing all the twiddling and making the really
Yeah,
nice
that was
sounds?
that was the Shins. It was the rifle spiral where she's like playing with the pedal board. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we've seen it before with the Shins. She's doing that, making some really interesting noises. But it made me think then, and it definitely made me think more, even more now, because of the setting of the musical setting of your man Tom Morello and what he manages to get out of his
Yeah.
guitar without bending down to the floor and pissing around. It's just he's so exceptional, isn't it?
It
Anyway,
is.
that's
Yeah,
just a
it's
side note.
wildly inventive stuff. So yeah, it's always fun to see it, even if it doesn't reach the Morello levels that he has clearly set the bar for. But yeah, cool. Silverchair. They were an Australian rock band which formed in 1992 as Innocent Criminals in Newcastle, which I find interesting because we've done some Ben Harper on the channel, and his accompanying band it's always Ben Harper and the Innocent Criminals. So I thought it was fun. We've seen this before, where like two different sides of the globe, somebody has the same idea for a band name, and changes need to be made. But yeah, they formed in New. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And also Newcastle.
Yeah,
Um, which there's plenty of places in the States and in Australia which are named from the motherland. I
yeah,
only know of Newcastle in Australia because of Aussie rules football. They've got a really strong team in Newcastle.
yes,
And it's
yes,
great watching them kicking the shit out of each other. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, Newcastle, New South Wales. Speaking of names that you'll find elsewhere geographically, with Daniel Johns on vocals and guitar, Ben Gillies on drums, and Chris Janot on bass guitar. The group got their big break in mid 1994 when they won a national demo competition conducted by SBS TV show Nomad and ABC radio station Triple J. The band was signed by Murmur and were successful in Australia and internationally. Silverchair has sold over 10 million albums worldwide. Their alternative rock sound evolved throughout their career with differing styles on specific albums, growing more ambitious over the years, from grunge on their first two albums to later works displaying orchestral and even art rock influences. Writers at 106.3 The Buzz consider Silverchair one of the big four of post-grunge. The songwriting and singing of Johns had evolved steadily while the band had developed an increased element of complexity. Silverchair have won more ARIA Music Awards than any other artist in history, earning 21 wins from 49 nominations. They also received 6 APRA awards, with Johns winning 3 songwriting awards in 2008. All 5 of their studio albums, Frog Stomp from 95, Freak Show from 97, Neon Ballroom from 99, Diorama from 2002, and Young Modern from 2007, debuted at number 1 on the ARIA albums chart. So they're 5 for 5 on number 1 debuts. 3 singles reached the number 1 slot on the related ARIA singles chart: Tomorrow from 1994, Freak from 1997, and Straight Lines from 2007. Founders Ben Gillis and Daniel Johns attended the same primary school in the Newcastle suburb of Meriwether. As teenagers, they started playing music together more prominently. In one class, they built a stage out of desks and played rap songs for their schoolmates. When they moved on to Newcastle High School, fellow student Chris Janot joined the pair on bass guitar, and in 1994, they formally formed the Innocent Criminals. They played numerous shows around the Hunter region in their early teens. Their repertoire included cover versions of Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and Black Sabbath. In 1994, Innocent Criminals entered Youth Rock, a national competition for school-based bands, and placed first ahead of much older competition. The band recorded demos of Acid Rain, Cicada, Pure Massacre, and Tomorrow early in the year at Platinum Sound Studios. In April, the band's mainstream breakthrough came when they won a national competition called Pick Me, using their demo of Tomorrow. The competition was conducted by the SBS TV show Nomad and Australian Broadcast Corporation, ABC, alternative radio station Triple J, as mentioned earlier. As part of the prize, Triple J recorded the song, and ABC filmed a video, which aired on June 16th. For the video's broadcast, they had changed their name to Silverchair, stylized in all lowercase Silverchair, until 2002, when they changed it to Silverchair with a capital S. In a 1994 interview with Melbourne magazine Buzz, the band claimed the name derived from a radio station request for Sliver by Nirvana and Berlin Chair by UMI being mixed up as Silverchair. The band later revealed they were named for the C.S. Lewis pen novel The Silverchair from the Chronicles of Narnia series. So there you go, John. Aside from Innocent Criminals, the band also used other names like the George Costanza Trio, which just absolutely tickles me to death. George Costanza is one of my favorite fictional characters in all of television. And Short Elvis as another one of their aliases. Following a bidding war between rival labels, Silverchair signed a 3-album recording contract with Sony Music subsidiary Murmur Records. Initially, the group were managed by their parents. Sony A&R manager John Watson, who was jointly responsible for signing the group, subsequently left the label to become their full-time manager. In September, their Triple J recording of Tomorrow was released as a 4-track extended play. From late October, it spent 6 weeks at number 1 on the ARIA singles chart. In 1995, a re-recorded version of the song and new video was made for the United States market, becoming the most played song on U.S. modern rock radio that year. Silverchair's debut album, Frog Stomp, on which this track features, was recorded in 9 days and released in March of 1995. At the time of recording, the band members were 15 years old. all still attending high school. And that's not even late high school. Like 15 is your sophomore year, maybe, your second year of high school, which is just incredible. Frog Stomp's lyrical concepts were fiction based, drawing inspiration from television, hometown tragedies, and perceptions of the pain of friends. The album was well received. All Music and Rolling Stone rated it 4 and 4.5 out of 5 stars, respectively, praising the intensity of the album, especially the track "Tomorrow." Frog Stomp was a #1 album in Australia and New Zealand. It reached the Billboard 200 top 10, making Silverchair the first Australian band to do so since INXS. It was certified as a U.S. double platinum album by the RIAA, triple platinum in Canada by the CRIA, and multi-platinum in Australia. The album sold more than 4 million copies worldwide. Pace magazine called the album the last stand of grunge. As Frog Stomp and Tomorrow continued to gain popularity through '95, the group toured the US, where they supported the Red Hot Chili Peppers in June, the Ramones in September, and played on the roof of Radio City Music Hall at the MTV Music Awards. Imagine being 15 years old and playing on the roof of one of the most famous venues in all of the United States, just coming from Newcastle, Australia, being 50. That's fucking just amazing. That's so awesome for them. At the ARIA Music Awards of 1995, the band won 5 awards out of 9 nominations. To collect their awards on the night, they sent Josh Shirley, the young son of the album's producer. At the ceremony, they performed Radio Birdman's New Race with Tim Rogers of UMI. In 2019, Dan Condon of Double J rated this as one of the 7 great performances from the history of the ARIA Awards. On December 9th of 1995, Silverchair played Pure Massacre and Tomorrow on U.S. television show Saturday Night Live. In September of '95, during Silverchair's tour in the U.S., Johns was hit with a bottle of alcohol in Santa Monica, California, while performing Israel's Son, and the injury required half a dozen stitches near his left eyebrow. Israel's Son was released as the 3rd single off of Frog Stomp and was also included on the band's first compilation album, The Best Of, Volume 1.
It must have really pissed him off to be hit with a bottle of something he wasn't even old enough to drink.
Yeah, exactly. Although I don't
That's
know.
really insulting, isn't it?
I don't know what the rules are in Australia, but yeah, certainly not while he was in the States. He could have just at least picked it up, poured a little over the wound, and slugged the rest of the bottle, which would have been the move. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. In a January 1996 murder case, the defendant counsel for Brian Bassett, 16 years old, and Nicholas McDonald, 18, of McCleary, Washington, claimed that the pair listened to Israel's Son from Frog Stomp, which contributed to the August 10th, 1995 murders of Bassett's parents and younger brother. McDonald's lawyer cited the lyrics, "Hate is what I feel for you, and I want you to know that I want you dead," which were almost a script. They're relevant. They are relevant to everything that happened, according to the argument made by the lawyer. The band's manager, Watson, issued a statement that they did not condone nor intend any such acts of violence. Prosecutors rejected the defense case and convinced the jury that the murder was committed to steal money and belongings and then run off to California. Interesting, weird case. I know this is this has happened a lot throughout music. I think of Nirvana and Polly, which was another famous case of this perverted interpretation of music, which, I mean, Sabbath dealt with that before too. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Led Zeppelin as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's absolute bollocks.
It is.
What's going to happen? Are they going to listen to Papa Don't Preach and then go off and get pregnant?
Yeah,
fuck off.
Exactly. I think it really derives from this imperfect storm where someone who's clearly fucking losing their mind happens to listen to a song. And it's only interpreted through whatever's happening between that listener's ears, which is on them and not the musician who wrote the music. You know what I mean? That person should have been seeking and getting help long before the release of this song or any other song that influenced anybody else to do something similar, or they allege to have influenced. Just all
they're just a couple
shitty
of little
arguments.
turds who wanted some money and killed their parents. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, Yeah, and just own that, you sick fuck, instead of blaming it on these, a song written by a 15-year-old. Um, in April 2022, The Guardian ranked Israel's Son at number 8 on their list of the 25 best Silverchair songs, sorted. And here are the lyrics that apparently are enough to inspire you to commit murder. Hate is what I feel for you, and I want you to know that I want you dead. You're late for the execution. If you're not here soon, I'll kill your friend instead. All the pain I feel couldn't start to heal, although I would like it to. I hate you and your apathy. You can leave, you can leave. I don't want you here. I'm playing this pantomime. That's funny. Uh, but I don't see you showing any signs of fear. All the pain I feel couldn't start to heal, although I would like it to. This time I'm for real. My pain cannot heal. You will be dead when I'm through. Hate is what I feel for you, and I want you to know that I want you dead. You're late for the execution. If you're not here soon, I'll kill your friend instead. All the pain I feel couldn't start to heal, although I would like it to. This pain, or pardon me, this time I'm for real. My pain cannot heal. You will be dead when I'm through, through, through. Pain and execution. Put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. Yeah, I am Israel's son. Israel's son, I am. Put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. I am Israel's son. Israel's son, I am. Put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. So, vocalist and guitarist Daniel Johns said about this song in an interview with Request magazine in November of 1995. That song was about an execution I saw on telly. I got this video of an execution and I just saw it. And I was watching it one night and I had a dream about it. And I woke up and thought, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I wrote a song about it. In July 2007, when asked about the grunge sound of Frog Stomp and the band's musical influences, Gilly stated, "We were definitely influenced by that whole Seattle sound." In May of 2015, when asked if the record was made live in the studio, John said, "Yeah, that's the thing that I do really like about that album. It sounds exactly like we sounded. There was no big American producer calling the shots behind the desk and telling us to do this, this, and this. It was literally this guy, Kevin Shirley, who was a great producer, just saying, I want it to sound like you guys, but I want it to sound really fucking loud. And I want the guitars really fucking loud." So to me, I was like, fucking yeah. The songwriting might not be genius, but I think sonically the performances are really good. It's really honest. It's just three Australian kids thrashing it out in the studio, and that's exactly how it sounds. So in August of 2020, Gillies said the following about the album: "We were always searching to keep the spark alive when Frog Stomp came out because it was just so unrefined. It was just so raw. There was something magical about that we continued to try and capture. I think we did pretty well." In 2003, following the release of their album Diorama, the previous year, Silverchair went on hiatus. The band reunited in 2005 at the Wave AIDS concert and released their fifth album, Young Modern, in 2007, and played the Across the Great Divide tour with contemporaries Powderfinger, which we saw a glimpse of in this video. But in May 2011, Silverchair announced an indefinite hiatus on which they still remain. So yeah, this Dan John's really interesting guy. In some of their work after Frog Stomp, and the time during those periods, he battled severely with anorexia, like getting down to an incredibly unhealthy weight, and dealt with self-image issues as well, which is probably an unfortunate repercussion of being thrust into international limelight at the age of 15. He also bore a striking resemblance to a very young Kurt Cobain, and with their sound at the time, were levied all of these expectations that were probably, despite all of this success that I just outlined. I mean, Christ, dude, it's inarguable the amount of success he had. He probably still felt that he would never live up to this guy who he looked like he was cut from the very same cloth of, and he only died a year before their popularity started soaring. So it was this weird cocktail of maybe supposed expectations that he felt that led to some of his troubles in the wake of their first album. But it's really good to see that he kind of righted that ship. But you'll hear it on some of their subsequent albums, like Neon Ballroom and stuff like that, where he dealt with that kind of stuff. But regardless, I'm really glad that you enjoyed this performance, and that you, even though if it's not exactly your cup of tea as far as subgenres or whatever, that you were still able to really appreciate what you heard. And I could very well bring some more of these guys to the table later on. But is there anything else you wanted to mention, John, before I wrap things up?
No, no, it's really interesting to hear about it. I do think it's interesting as well how they didn't seem to translate in this country so much.
Yeah, you
Um,
heard all of those different, I mean, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, America, huge, I mean, a ton of success. I would have
yeah,
assumed maybe even to a if to a lesser extent, there was still some had in the UK, but who knows? I don't. It obviously wasn't really spelled out in any of the research I did about how great their tours of the UK went or anything like that. So it is
yeah.
interesting. But yeah, I'll bring some more by them to the channel down the road. But guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of this live iteration of Israel Sun from Silverchair's debut album Frog Stomp. Love to hear from you guys. If there's other stuff by them that you would like us to check out specifically on this channel, please feel free to drop some names of tracks down there. Otherwise, I'm gonna just pick some of the ones that I've always been a fan of as well. Likely we'll do both if you offer anything up, so please do. Also like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. It really does help us over here at the channel. It just costs you a couple minutes of your time, and we really do appreciate it. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.